Long ago, in a small, dusty village at the edge of the great forest, lived a girl named Nneka. From the day she was born, darkness seemed to follow her like a stubborn shadow. While other children brought joy to their families, Nneka's birth brought only scorn to her mother. Mama Nneka was known in the village not for kindness, but for her sharp tongue and endless hatred for her daughter Nneka. Her voice could cut through flesh like a machete. From a very young age, Nneka knew what it meant to be unwanted. While her younger sister Oma wore shiny dresses and powdered her face for festivals, Nneka was the shadow that was hidden in the kitchen or sent out to other households like a basket of dirty clothes no one wanted. When Oma was to wed a wealthy trader's son, Mama Nneka picked her chief bridesmaid, not Nneka, her first daughter, but her younger child, Ama. Nneka, she hissed, you're not beautiful enough to stand beside Oma. You will bring shame. The words pierced deeper than thorns. But the true suffering began when Mama Nneka sent Nneka from house to house as a house help. One woman, Madame Uzo, treated her worse than a goat. Nneka washed Madame Uzo's dirty and smelly clothes like it was her only purpose in life. Sometimes, Nneka sat behind the water drum at night and wept, her tears mixing with the dusty ground. Each time she returned home from mistreatment, hoping for comfort, Mama Nneka would slap her and send her back. So you've come to eat food in my house again, she would bark. You must suffer. That is your fate. Even the animals in the village seemed to treat Nneka better. At least the old hen behind Madame Uzo's kitchen would sit beside her when she cried, cooing softly as if to say, I see you, child. Nneka began to hate life. Hate her name, which means mother is supreme. She hated and cursed the day she was born and one of her birth days. She hid herself in the forest and cursed her birth, just like Job cursed his, in the ancient scriptures. Love, that word was foreign to her. Marriage? She vowed never to know it. Her heart, once like a small calabash holding hope, had long since cracked and dried. But deep within the darkest forest of the land, it is said there lives a woman known only as Mama, a mysterious herbalist with eyes like burning coals and a heart that listens to the sorrow of forgotten souls. They say she knows the pain of girls like Nneka, and that she keeps a mirror that reflects not your face, but your worth. One evening, Nneka decided to end it all. As she wandered deeper into the forest with no thought of returning, a strange wind blew through the trees, and a crow cried thrice from above. Nneka turned her head toward the crow's cry and saw an old woman leaning on a crooked walking stick, her wrapper faded, her hair white like the bark of a baobab tree. The woman's eyes glowed like dying embers, tired, yet strangely alive. Nneka dropped her wrapped bundle of clothes and ran to her. Grandma, she said, kneeling and clutching the woman's feet. I beg you, let me stay here with you. I'd rather suffer in peace with you than go back to that world that hates me. The old woman studied her face in silence. A squirrel darted across the roots of a tree nearby. Wind rustled the tall forest grass. Nneka's eyes held no fear, just pain, and a strange kind of peace. Come not closer, my child, the old woman said in a cracked voice. I am but a helpless old woman in this forest. I have nothing, no food, no water. You should turn back. You will die of hunger here, the old woman warned again. I live on bitter herbs and stream water. Even birds pity me. I was on my way to die anyway, Nneka whispered. But now I've seen someone who doesn't curse me for existing. That's enough. And so she stayed. For 3 days, Nneka cooked with wild vegetables, fetched water from the forest stream, cleared fallen leaves from the woman's hut, and sang old lullabies to her at night. She felt no shame. No one mocked her. No one called her ugly. For the first time in her life, Nneka knew what it meant to be seen. On the 3rd morning, as the sun broke gently through the trees, The old woman called her. "Nneka," she said, "come sit by me. I have something to tell you." Nneka knelt beside her, her hands folded respectfully. The old woman's voice dropped to a whisper, as if the trees themselves were listening. "You were born to be great," she said. "A shining star meant to light up many. But the wicked ones saw your light and planted hatred in your mother's heart to break you before your time. They veiled your beauty. They sealed your greatness." Nneka's eyes widened. "But why me? What did I do?" The woman smiled softly. "You did nothing, child. But when light is born, darkness always tries to snuff it out." She stood slowly and led Nneka to a stream so clear it mirrored the sky. From beneath a rock, she brought out a small clay pot filled with herbs and leaves soaked in a strange blue oil. "Kneel," she said. "Let me bathe you, not with water alone, but with spirit." The old woman poured the mixture over Nneka's head, chanting in a tongue the girl didn't understand. As the liquid flowed down her skin, a warmth spread through her, like fire and light and wind all at once. When it was done, the woman spoke again. "Go back to the town. Do not be afraid. Do not explain anything. Your beauty will shine. Your enemies will bow. Your destiny has been restored." "But grandmother," Nneka began, her voice trembling. "What if my mother still hates me? What if they still mock me?" The old woman turned to her, her eyes now like twin flames. "They will not recognize you. The veil is gone. Watch and see. The same ones who cast you out will seek your favor." Nneka wept, not out of sadness, but from the strange, deep joy swelling inside her. And so, with trembling feet and a heart full of wonder, she began the journey back home. Nneka walked into their compound with her heart steady, yet ready for rejection. She half expected her mother to raise her voice, to rain curses or insults as usual. But this time, the woman simply looked at her and said nothing. No insults, no wicked eyes. Only silence. Cold, stiff silence, like a harmattan morning. This had not happened before. Mama Nneka turned and entered the house, her footsteps echoing like a woman confused. But Nneka noticed something strange. She didn't call her ugly. She didn't hiss or drive her out. She didn't even shout. That silence was louder than any slap. Later that night, Nneka asked her younger sister, Naza, "Do I look different? Did something change about me?" Naza stared at her and blinked. I don't know," she said. "But your skin is glowing. Your eyes, they look alive." Nneka smiled faintly. She knew what had happened. The old woman had washed off the veil. Her real face, her true beauty was now visible. Days passed, and Nneka began to notice the world treating her differently. The women who once mocked her at the stream now smiled politely. Even the village boys who once teased her looks now looked twice when she walked by. Her heart started healing slowly, like a wound breathing for the first time. One morning, her mother gave her a task she never thought she'd be trusted with. "Take these yams and cassava to the market," she said, wrapping the goods in a basket. "Sell them and return with the money." Nneka was shocked, but obeyed. At the market, as she arranged her basket, a hush came over the traders. The queen had entered the market square, her guards clearing the path. She walked gracefully, her eyes sharp, her presence commanding. As she passed Nneka's stall, her steps slowed. She turned and stared at her for a long moment, as though trying to remember a face from a forgotten dream. "You there?" the queen said. "Where are you from?" "My queen, I am from a nearby village, 2 villages away from here." The queen nodded slowly. "I shall visit your family. There is something about you." Nneka's heart pounded. She bowed again. "You are welcome, my queen." The next day, a royal entourage pulled into Mama Nneka's compound. Trumpets sounded softly. Neighbors peeked from their windows. Children stood on their toes. Nneka was inside, sweeping, when Mama Nneka stormed in. "Stay inside," she whispered harshly. "Don't come out until they leave." Nneka froze. Then she heard her mother step outside and greet the queen. "My queen, you are most welcome," Mama Nneka said. "This is my daughter Ama, the only one yet to marry. The rest are all living with their husbands in other towns." Ama stepped forward in a fine lace gown, her eyes glittering with excitement. But the queen's brows furrowed. She said softly, "That's strange. The girl I met in the market yesterday described the same compound. But this isn't her." Mama Nneka forced a laugh. "Perhaps your royal memory deceives you, my queen. This is the only unmarried daughter I have." The queen looked around the compound, her eyes searching. "Did she give me her name?" "No. I forgot to ask," she said, sounding almost disappointed. She turned and walked back toward her palanquin. Inside the house, behind the door curtain, Nneka watched them leave, her fists clenched, her heart breaking in slow motion. The same mother who once hated her, now denied her. And yet, something inside her whispered, "This is not the end." The queen could not rest. Something about that girl from the market haunted her dreams. Her glow, her humility, the way she carried pain like royalty without a crown. So she sent one of her guards, Obinna, tall and silent, as a common traveler to Umudim village to confirm if the address the girl had given was real. For 2 days, Obinna lingered around the compound, pretending to buy firewood, fetching water from the stream. He saw everything. He returned to the queen and bowed deeply. "My queen," he said. "She was telling the truth. Her name is Nneka. She lives with her mother and sisters. But something strange. The mother hides her like a secret." That very evening, the queen returned, this time with more guards. Her royal carriage parked in front of Mama Nneka's house. "Mama Nneka!" The queen's voice thundered across the compound. "I demand to see Nneka." Mama Nneka, startled, ran out and bowed with trembling knees. "My queen, Nneka? Who told you about Nneka again?" "I said bring her out," the queen commanded. "Now!" Reluctantly, with eyes darting about, Mama Nneka went into the house and pulled Nneka by the arm. "Go! The queen is calling you. Don't spoil my name." Nneka stepped out slowly, her head low, heart thudding. The queen looked at her and nodded with satisfaction. "Yes, this is her." Then came the words that shook the entire village. "Nneka, I want you to marry my husband, the king, as his second wife." Gasps filled the air. Nneka blinked, stunned. "My queen, I cannot. I'm not worthy. I cannot walk in the shoes of a queen. I do not know how to be one." Before the queen could respond, Nneka turned and ran, barefoot, through the compound, tears streaming down her cheeks. Everyone stared, frozen. The queen stood speechless. Who rejects royalty? But before she could recover, Mama Nneka rushed forward, smiling desperately. "My queen, please don't be angry. That girl doesn't know her worth. Why not consider my youngest daughter, Naza? She's young, obedient, beautiful." "Silence," the queen snapped. "I asked for Nneka, not you, not your choice." She entered her carriage and left in fury, her guards marching behind her. The dust from their departure hung in the air like judgment. That night, Nneka wept bitterly under the udala tree behind their house. "Why is my life always like this?" she cried. "Even the good things feel like punishments." 3 days later, a message came again. The queen had returned. This time, she entered the compound calmly and sat in Mama Nneka's wooden chair. Nneka was brought out. "Nneka," she said gently, "you must marry the king. It is not just about you. There is a spiritual purpose you do not understand yet." "I don't have the heart to be a queen," Nneka whispered. Before the queen could reply, Mama Nneka jumped in, her voice sharp. "Stop disgracing me, Nneka. How many girls will kneel and cry to have this chance? This queen is doing you a favor, marrying your ugly self. Don't forget who you are." Her words stung like pepper in a fresh wound. That night, after hours of shouting and weeping, Nneka finally agreed. Not because her heart wanted it, but because her strength was gone. The queen smiled. "The marriage will take place in 2 weeks." The village buzzed with shock. Nneka, the girl who was once mocked, was becoming a queen. But deep inside, Nneka felt a storm brewing. Something didn't feel right. Her soul was uneasy. And far away, in the deepest part of the forest, Mama sat by her fire, staring into the flames. She whispered, "Let the real journey begin." The morning sun rose with quiet majesty over the village. Drums rolled like thunder, and villagers lined the dusty paths, whispering and wondering about the strange royal wedding set to take place that day. In Mama Nneka's compound, Nneka sat still, dressed in the finest red velvet wrapper she had ever worn. Her eyes were tired from tears, tears of confusion, fear, and quiet surrender. She didn't understand what life was doing with her, but she had stopped fighting it. Soon, royal trumpets sounded in the distance. The people turned as the king's convoy arrived first, the elder king and his queen, followed by their long train of servants, guards, and chieftains. But then something unusual happened. Another convoy pulled in. In their midst was a young man clothed in a regal white agbada stitched with gold. His crown sparkled in the sunlight, and his steps were sure and graceful. The villagers gasped. "Who is that? Which king is this one again?" People bowed deeply as he passed. Respect followed him like a shadow. Then the queen rose and raised her hand. "My people," she said, "let me unveil the truth." A hush fell over the entire crowd. "This marriage today is not between Nneka and my husband, the king," she said with a calm smile. "It is between Nneka and King Soma, the newly crowned ruler of Isiama kingdom." Gasps filled the air. Mama Nneka staggered backward in shock. Even her mouth could not form words. The queen continued, "When I met Nneka in the market, I saw what others refused to see. A humble heart, a loyal spirit, and a soul that had suffered, but not turned bitter. I wanted to test her. I wanted to see if fame and wealth would blind her. But when she rejected the idea of becoming a second wife, I knew. This is the kind of queen a king should marry." Everyone turned toward Nneka. Mama Nneka's mouth hung open like an empty pot. Naza and Amma stared at each other, speechless. The drums changed rhythm, royal, powerful, joyful. The marriage rites began, and before the crowd's very eyes, Nneka, the girl who was body-shamed, mocked, hidden, and hated, was crowned queen of the kingdom. She stood beside her husband, a man who saw her worth before she even said a word. Cheers erupted. Some wept, some danced. Mama Nneka knelt and cried, but it was too late. Nneka was now royalty. Lessons to learn from the story. Your beginning does not define your ending. Nneka was mocked and despised, but destiny lifted her above those who once laughed at her. Rejection is sometimes protection. Nneka's refusal to marry the elder king was what led her to her true place by the side of her own king. Beauty is not only in appearance, but in character. It was her humility, kindness, and strength that made her worthy of the crown, not makeup or fine clothes. God hides his treasures in low places. Sometimes, the most valuable people are hidden in pain, rejection, and struggle until the right eyes find them. Never look down on anyone. Today's house help could be tomorrow's queen.